What would you do if the most dangerous man in the room chose kindness when everyone expected cruelty? Like, seriously, have you ever been in a situation where power could have crushed someone, but instead, something totally unexpected happened? Stay with me on this one because what you're about to hear might completely flip your perspective on what real strength actually looks like. Picture this. It's past midnight in one of those crazy upscale restaurants in downtown LA. You know the type where the chandeliers probably cost more than most people's cars, where the marble floors are so polished you can literally see your reflection, and where the silence itself feels expensive. The kind of place where conversations happen in whispers, where every fork scraping against fine china sounds like a violation of some unspoken rule. This isn't just a restaurant. It's a temple of power, where deals get made that never see the light of day, where handshakes mean more than contracts, and where the wrong word at the wrong table could change someone's life forever. The back room? Yeah, that room is reserved. It's always reserved. Every Thursday night, same time, same people. Well, mostly the same people. See, there's this man who sits at the center table, and when he enters, the entire energy shifts. It's wild. The staff straightens up, the managers nod with this practiced respect that borders on fear, and even the air seems to hold its breath. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. His presence does all the talking. Italian suit, perfectly tailored. Silver cufflinks that catch the dim light just right. His face. Weathered but not old. More like, seasoned by decisions most people would never have to make. And then there's her. She's basically invisible to everyone in that room. You know that feeling when you're somewhere, doing your thing, and people look right through you like you're part of the furniture? That's her reality every single night. Early 30s maybe. Tired eyes that have seen too many double shifts. Her uniform is clean but worn, her movements efficient but quiet, like she's learned over the years that the less space she takes up, the safer she is. She refills water glasses without being asked. She clears plates before anyone notices they're empty. She exists in the margins of other people's important lives. Tonight feels different though. Can you sense it? There's this weird tension hanging in the air, like right before a storm hits but the sky hasn't darkened yet. The usual conversations at his table are happening. Business, territory, respect, all that coded language that means something completely different than what's actually being said. But every now and then his eyes drift. Not obviously. Not in a way anyone would call out. But they drift toward her corner of the room, where she's wiping down a service station, where she's folding napkins with hands that shake just slightly from exhaustion. Here's where it gets interesting, and I need you to stick with me because this is where everything starts to unravel in the most unexpected way. See, there's this moment, brief, almost missable, where she accidentally meets his gaze. Just for a second. And instead of looking away immediately like she normally would, like she's trained herself to do around men like him, something flickers across her face. Not defiance exactly. Not fear either. Something else. Something honest. And he sees it. The thing is, nobody at that table notices. They're too busy with their power plays and their careful words. But he noticed. And in that fraction of a moment, something shifted. Not in the room stays exactly the same. The shift happens somewhere deeper, somewhere invisible, in that space between who we pretend to be and who we actually are when nobody's watching. What you're gonna discover in the next few minutes might seriously challenge everything you think you know about power, about respect, and about what it really means to be strong. Because sometimes the most powerful choice someone can make has nothing to do with force or fear or control. Sometimes it's about something way more difficult than that. You ever been underestimated? You ever felt like you didn't matter? Hold that feeling. Remember it. Because what's about to unfold in this room, what's about to happen between these two people who exist in completely different worlds, is gonna show you why the quietest moments sometimes carry the most weight. The clock on the wall ticks forward. She continues her work. He continues his conversation. But something's been set in motion now, something neither of them fully understands yet. And that's exactly where our story truly begins. Before we dive deeper into what happened that night, real quick, if you're feeling this story, if something about it's already hitting different, do me a solid and smash that like button. Seriously, it helps more than you know. And if you're into stories that show the real side of power, the human side that nobody talks about, hit subscribe. We're building something here, a space for stories that actually matter, about people who usually stay invisible. Your support keeps these stories alive. Now, back to that room because what happens next is gonna stay with you. The thing about power is that it's never really about the loud moments. It's about the silence. The way people move around you. The way they calculate every word before it leaves their mouth. The way they measure their breath when you enter a room. And this man, let's call him what everyone else calls him, though never to his face, Mr. Castellano, he's mastered that silence like an art form. He's been coming to this restaurant for over 15 years. Same table. Same corner. Same calculated distance from the entrance and the kitchen. Strategic, you know? He can see everyone who comes in, but his back is never to the door. Old school. The kind of positioning that becomes instinct when you've lived a certain type of life. His associates sit around him in this carefully orchestrated arrangement, not too close, not too far. Close enough to hear his whispers, far enough to give him space. Respect isn't requested in his world. It's assumed or it's taken. Tonight, like every Thursday, the ritual unfolds with clockwork precision. Wine is poured without him asking. The chef personally brings out the first course, though Castellano barely acknowledges it. His focus is on the conversation, on the man across from him who's sweating just slightly despite the air conditioning. They're discussing something about a contract, about territories, about understanding one's place in the grand scheme of things. The words are polite, almost cordial, but the subtext is sharp enough to cut glass. And she's there in the background doing what she always does. Her name is Maria, though nobody at that table knows it. Nobody's ever asked. To them, she's the help. Part of the scenery. Another working-class face in a city full of them, grinding through night shifts to make rent, to send money back home, to keep her head barely above water in an economy that seems designed to drown people like her. She moves with this practiced invisibility, the kind you develop when being noticed means being vulnerable. But here's what's fascinating, and I want you to really pay attention to this because it's where the layers start peeling back. Maria's not just exhausted from work. There's something else weighing on her. You can see it in the way her shoulders carry tension that has nothing to do with the heavy trays. In the way she glances at her phone during the brief seconds she has between tasks, her expression tightening with worry. In the way she touches this small silver cross around her neck, almost unconsciously, like a reflex that grounds her when everything else feels like it's spinning out of control. See, what nobody in that restaurant knows is that earlier that day, Maria received news that her mother, still living in a small town 3 states away, has been getting worse. The medical bills are piling up. The treatments aren't working like they hoped. And Maria is here, thousands of miles from where she wants to be, serving appetizers to men who spend more on a single bottle of wine than she makes in a month. The contradiction isn't lost on her. The unfairness of it sits in her chest like a stone. Now, let's talk about what happens next because this is where perception starts to shift. Around 10:30, there's this moment where the kitchen gets backed up. It happens sometimes even in the best places. A new cook, a complicated order, whatever. The point is, Maria's section is running behind, and that table, Castellano's table, they're waiting on their main course longer than usual. It's maybe 7-8 minutes. Not a big deal in most circumstances. But in this world, where power is demonstrated through service, where attention is currency, even small delays are noticed. One of the associates starts getting impatient. He's younger than the others, probably trying to prove something, trying to show he doesn't let things slide. He snaps his fingers, literally snaps his fingers, trying to get Maria's attention. The sound cuts through the low murmur of the restaurant like a crack. A few heads turn. Maria, who's been rushing between tables trying to manage the delay, stops. Her face flushes. Not from anger. She learned a long time ago that anger is a luxury she can't afford. From humiliation. She walks over, professional smile in place despite everything. I apologize for the wait, sir. The kitchen is just. I don't need excuses, he interrupts, waving his hand dismissively. I need food. Do your job. The table goes quiet. Not uncomfortable quiet. Expectant quiet. Like they're all waiting to see how this plays out, this tiny moment of hierarchy being enforced. Will she apologize again? Will she scramble even more? Will she show the appropriate level of subservience that maintains the order of things? But before Maria can respond, before she can navigate that impossible tightrope between dignity and survival, Castellano speaks. His voice is low, calm, almost gentle. But it cuts through everything like a blade. Tony. That's it. Just the name. But the younger associate freezes like he's been physically struck. Because when Castellano says your name in that tone, it means you've crossed a line you didn't even know existed. The entire energy of the table shifts in an instant. Tony's face loses color. The other men suddenly become very interested in their water glasses. Castellano doesn't look at Tony. He's looking at Maria. Really looking at her, maybe for the first time despite the hundreds of times she's served him over the years. And in his eyes, there's something none of them expected. Not anger. Not irritation at the delay. Something else entirely. Something almost soft. Where? The food will come when it comes, Castellano says, still in that quiet voice that somehow carries more weight than shouting ever could. We're not animals. We can wait. The apology is directed at Maria, not Tony. The message is clear to everyone at the table. And Maria just stands there for a second, completely thrown off balance. Because in her world, people like Castellano don't apologize to people like her. They don't see her as human enough to warrant that kind of consideration. The script she's memorized, the survival strategy she's perfected, none of them prepared her for this moment of unexpected decency. Thank you, she manages, and something in her voice cracks just slightly. Not from fear this time. From something harder to name. She walks back to the kitchen, and if you were watching closely, you'd see her hand trembling as she pushes through the door. Not from the confrontation. From the strange, disorienting experience of being treated with dignity in a place where she's learned not to expect it. It's almost worse in a way because it reminds her that this isn't normal. That what just happened was an exception, not a rule. That tomorrow night, or the next night, someone else will snap their fingers and she'll have to smile through it because rent is due and her mother needs medication and dignity doesn't pay bills. But something has shifted in that room. The men at Castellano's table are quieter now, more careful. Tony looks like he wants to disappear into his chair. And Castellano himself, he's not eating when the food finally arrives. He's thinking. You can see it in the way his jaw tightens, in the way he touches the rim of his wine glass without drinking, in the way his eyes occasionally drift toward the kitchen door where Maria disappeared. Here's what's really going down though, and this is the part that gets under your skin if you let it. Castellano isn't some saint. He's not suddenly transformed into a good guy because he showed basic human decency one time. His history is what it is. The things he's done, the decisions he's made, they don't get erased by a moment of kindness. But maybe that's exactly what makes this complicated. Maybe that's what makes it real. Because people aren't simple. Power doesn't make you a monster or a hero. It just amplifies what's already there, the contradictions, the capacity for both cruelty and compassion that exists in all of us. And Maria, walking back out with dessert menus an hour later, she catches his eye again. This time, neither of them looks away immediately. There's this moment of mutual recognition, this acknowledgement that something happened that neither of them fully understands yet. It's not romantic. It's not even friendly. It's just human. Two people seeing each other across a divide that's supposed to be uncrossable. The question hanging in the air, the question nobody's asking out loud but everyone's feeling. What happens when power chooses to see? When it chooses to acknowledge rather than ignore? When it steps outside its own script, even for a moment? Now I want to go even deeper into what this moment reveals about both of them, because there's something happening beneath the surface that changes everything. But first, drop a comment if this is hitting home. Right, I see it, if you're tracking what's really going on here. Let me know you're with me on this. What nobody tells you about moments like these is that they don't just affect the people directly involved. They ripple outward. They contaminate the atmosphere. They force everyone in proximity to reconsider assumptions they didn't even know they were making. And right now, in this restaurant, that ripple is spreading through the room like a silent earthquake that only certain people can feel. The rest of the evening continues, but it's different now. The men at Castellano's table are more subdued, their usual bravado dialed back several notches. They're not sure what just happened, not really, but they know enough to recognize when the rules have temporarily shifted. Tony, the guy who snapped his fingers, he's barely touched his food. Every time Maria passes near the table, he avoids looking at her entirely, like eye contact might remind everyone of his mistake. That's the thing about hierarchies built on fear and respect. They're incredibly fragile. One moment of humanity can crack the whole facade. But let's talk about what's going on inside Castellano's head, because this is where the real transformation begins, even if he doesn't fully realize it yet. See, men like him, they build walls. Thick ones. Walls made of reputation and distance and carefully maintained personas. They have to, in a way. When you operate in worlds where showing weakness can get you killed, where sentiment is liability, you learn to compartmentalize. You learn to separate the person you are from the person you need to be. Family over here, business over there. Emotion in this box, decision-making in that one. But here's the brutal truth about walls, they don't just keep others out. They keep you in. And Castellano, watching Maria move through the restaurant with that quiet exhaustion, something inside him is cracking. Not breaking, not yet, but cracking. Because she reminds him of something he spent decades trying not to think about. Someone actually, his mother. Not in appearance, not really, but in essence. In the way she carries herself with dignity despite circumstances that offer none. In the way she keeps going when everything tells her to quit. His mother had been a cleaning woman in Brooklyn, back when he was just a kid with holes in his shoes and hunger in his belly. She'd worked 3 jobs to keep him and his sister fed. He remembers watching her hands, raw and cracked from chemicals and cold water, as she'd count out coins on the kitchen table trying to figure out if they could afford both heat and food that week. He remembers the way men in expensive suits would walk past her in the buildings she cleaned, wouldn't even glance in her direction, like she was furniture. Like she wasn't somebody's whole world. She died when he was 19. Heart attack. Worked herself literally to death trying to give her kids a chance at something better. And he'd made a promise at her funeral, standing there in a borrowed suit that didn't fit right, that he'd never be invisible again. That he'd never let anyone make him feel small. That he'd climb so high that no one could ever look through him the way they'd looked through his mother. He kept that promise. Became exactly what he set out to become. Powerful. Fear. Respected in the way that doesn't really mean respect at all, but compliance. But here's the thing about running from your past. Eventually, if you live long enough, it catches up. Not in the way you expect. In quiet moments. In the face of a tired waitress who doesn't even know she's holding up a mirror. Maria clears the table as the night winds down. It's almost 1 in the morning now. The restaurant is mostly empty except for Castellano's party and a couple of stragglers at the bar. Her shift should have ended an hour ago, but someone called out and she needs the overtime. Always needs the overtime. When she reaches for Castellano's empty glass, her phone buzzes in her pocket. She ignores it the first time, professional training taking over, but it buzzes again. And again. Something in her expression changes. The careful neutrality cracks just slightly. Castellano notices because he spent a lifetime reading people, learning to spot the micro-expressions that reveal what words try to hide. "You need to get that?" he asks, and his voice is so gentle that it startles both of them. Maria freezes. Customers don't ask her things like that. Customers, especially customers like him, don't acknowledge that she has a life outside of serving them. It's fine, sir. I'm working." "Answer it," he says. Not a command exactly, but not a suggestion either. Something in between. She hesitates, then pulls out her phone. Her face goes pale as she reads the screen. Castellano watches her fingers tighten around the device, watches her eyes close briefly like she's trying to physically hold herself together. When she opens them again, there are tears there, barely held back. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I need to, I'll be right back." She practically runs to the back hallway, phone pressed to her ear. Through the archway, if you're paying attention, you can see her shoulders shaking. She's trying to keep her voice down, trying to maintain composure even in crisis, but some things are too big to contain. From the fragments that carry back to the dining room, the men at the table can piece together the shape of bad news. Hospital. Mother. Decisions that need to be made. Money that doesn't exist. The associates shift uncomfortably. This is too much humanity, too much raw reality intruding on their carefully constructed evening. They want to look away, to pretend they didn't hear, to maintain the comfortable distance between their world and hers. But Castellano doesn't look away. He's staring at that hallway like he's seeing something the rest of them can't. Or maybe like he's seeing something from a long time ago, superimposed over the present. When Maria comes back, she's composed herself as best she can. Her eyes are red but dry. Her hands are steady. She's wearing that professional mask again, the one that says everything is fine, nothing to see here, just doing my job. "I apologize for the interruption," she says, voice controlled. "Can I get you gentlemen anything else?" The question hangs there. On the surface it's simple. Standard. The kind of thing she said 10,000 times. But underneath there's something else. There's this naked vulnerability that she can't quite hide, this desperation that's trying so hard to look like normalcy. She needs this job. She needs these tips. She needs to keep moving, keep working, because stopping means thinking and thinking means breaking, and she can't afford to break. Castellano reaches into his jacket. The associates tense slightly, old instincts die hard. But he pulls out his wallet, removes something. Not just bills. A substantial amount of bills. More than the entire table's check. Way more. He sets it on the table, then looks directly at Maria. "How much do you need?" he asks. The question is so unexpected, so far outside the script of how this is supposed to go, that Maria literally takes a step back. What? For your mother. How much do you need?" The table is dead silent now. The associates are staring at Castellano like he's speaking a foreign language. Tony's mouth is literally hanging open. Because this isn't how it works. This isn't how men like Castellano operate. You don't show your hand. You don't reveal that you care. You don't make yourself vulnerable by acknowledging someone else's humanity. It's weakness. It's dangerous. It's everything they've been taught not to do. But Castellano isn't looking at them. He's looking at Maria, and in his eyes there's something none of them have ever seen before. Not pity, that would be condescending, and somehow he knows that. Not guilt, that would be about him, and this isn't. It's recognition. It's the acknowledgement that the distance between them, this vast gulf of power and money and circumstance, it's arbitrary. It's luck. It's 100 small accidents of birth and timing that could have gone differently. That did go differently for his mother, who never got help when she needed it because pride and poverty are a deadly combination. Maria is shaking her head, backing away further. I can't, sir, I can't accept that. I'm not. You're not asking, Castellano says quietly. I'm offering. There's a difference. And here's where it gets really complex, really interesting from a psychological standpoint. Because Maria's first instinct is refusal. Not because she doesn't need the money, God knows she needs it desperately. But because accepting it means owing something. Means becoming indebted. Means giving up a piece of her autonomy, her dignity, the one thing she's managed to keep intact through all of this. In her experience, men with power don't give without expecting something in return. That's not how the world works. That's not how survival works. But there's something in Castellano's face that makes her pause. Something that says this isn't about power. This isn't about leverage or control or creating obligation. This is about something else entirely. Something she can't quite name but can feel in the air between them. Now I want to take you even deeper into what this moment reveals about human nature, about the masks we wear and the truths we hide even from ourselves. But first, drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had a moment where someone showed you unexpected kindness when you needed it most? When someone saw you when you felt invisible? Right, I remember, if you've been there. Share your story if you feel it. Because these moments, they connect us in ways that power and money never can, and I want to know I'm not alone in believing that. The money sits on the table between them like a live grenade. Nobody moves. Nobody breathes. It's one of those moments where time does that weird thing where it stretches and compresses simultaneously, where a few seconds feel like hours and you're hyper-aware of every sound, every shift in the air. The distant clatter of dishes from the kitchen. The hum of the ventilation system. The almost imperceptible buzz of the fluorescent light in the hallway where Maria is still standing, frozen in this impossible decision. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface, and this is the part most people miss when they think about power dynamics and transformation. Castellano isn't doing this to feel good about himself. He's not playing savior. He's not trying to balance some cosmic ledger of karma. What he's doing is actually way more complicated and way more painful than that. He's confronting a ghost. He's reaching across time to help the person his mother was, the person nobody helped when it mattered. And that's a hell of a thing to carry, that weight of too late, always too late. Maria's hands are trembling as she stares at the money. She does the math automatically, can't help it when you've spent years counting every dollar, every cent. What's on that table represents months of her salary, maybe more. It represents her mother's treatment. It represents time, precious time that money can sometimes buy when you're desperate enough. But it also represents something else. A debt. A connection. An acknowledgement that she's been seen, and being seen by someone like Castellano, that comes with implications she can't fully calculate. Why? The word comes out barely above a whisper, but it cuts through the silence like a shout. Why would you do this? It's the first time all night she's asked him a direct question. The first time she stepped outside the role of server, outside the careful boundaries of her position. It's dangerous. It's brave. It's the kind of thing that could go very wrong very fast depending on how he responds. The associates are watching this exchange like it's a car accident in slow motion, horrified and fascinated and unable to look away. Castellano is quiet for a long moment. He's not a man who explains himself. Not to his associates, not to his adversaries, not even to the people closest to him. His power has always been rooted partly in mystery, in the space between what people know and what they fear. But something about this moment, about her question, about the naked honesty in her eyes, it demands honesty in return. Not the calculated kind. The real kind. The kind that costs something. My mother worked herself to death, he says finally, voice low enough that the associates have to strain to hear. She cleaned offices in Manhattan. Scrubbed toilets for people who never learned her name. Never looked her in the eye. She had a heart attack on the F train coming home from her third job. Died before the ambulance could get there. He pauses, jaw working like the words are physically difficult to form. Nobody helped her. Not once. Not ever. So maybe I can't help her. But I can help you. The confession lands like a bomb in the middle of the table. Because men like Castellano, they don't talk about their mothers. They don't reveal vulnerabilities. They don't hand ammunition to anyone, and personal history is always ammunition in their world. Tony is staring at his boss like he's never seen him before. Like the man he thought he knew just dissolved and someone else is sitting in his place. But here's the really crucial detail, the thing that changes everything about how we understand what's happening here. Maria doesn't take the money. Not right away. Instead, she pulls out a chair, uninvited, unprecedented, and sits down. Right there at Castellano's table. The associates actually recoil slightly, shocked by the breach of protocol. You don't sit at that table unless you're invited. You don't insert yourself into that space. But she does, and Castellano doesn't stop her. He's watching her with this intensity that's not threatening, just focused. Present in a way that feels almost unfamiliar to him. "My mother," Maria says, her voice steadier now, "she tells me that dignity isn't something people give you. It's something you carry yourself. That no matter how little money you have, how hard life gets, you don't let them make you small." She looks directly at Castellano, and there's fire in her eyes now, burning through the exhaustion. Taking your money, it feels like becoming small. Like saying I can't handle my own life. Like I need to be saved. And right there, that's the moment. That's the turning point. Because she's just told one of the most powerful men in the city that his generosity, his attempt at redemption, at reaching back through time to fix what couldn't be fixed, it's not enough. It's not the right shape. She's rejecting the narrative he was trying to write, the one where he gets to be the hero and she gets to be grateful. She's insisting on her own agency, her own dignity, even when it costs her something she desperately needs. The silence that follows is different from the earlier silences. It's not tense. It's reverent, almost, like everyone in that space recognizes they're witnessing something rare. A moment where power and vulnerability meet and neither one backs down. Where two people from completely different worlds find this weird, unexpected common ground in the shared understanding that being seen matters more than being saved. Castellano leans back in his chair and for the first time all night he smiles. Not the cold smile he uses in business. Not the performative smile that keeps people at distance. A real smile, small and sad and genuine. "My mother would have said the same thing," he admits. "Probably would have thrown the money in my face if she thought it was charity." "It's not charity though," Maria says, and her voice is different now too. Not subservient. Not defensive. Just honest. "Is it?" "No," Castellano agrees. "It's not." What happens next is going to sound almost unbelievable, but I need you to understand that truth is often stranger and more nuanced than fiction. Castellano picks up the money, but he doesn't put it back in his wallet. Instead, he writes something on a napkin, a phone number, and slides it across the table with the cash. "This is my attorney," he says. "He handles things. Payments. Arrangements. You call him tomorrow. Tell him what you need for your mother's treatment. He'll set up an account, legitimate, clean. You pay it back when you can. No interest. No strings. No obligation except the one you put on yourself." He's reframing it. Taking her criticism, her need for dignity, and restructuring his offer to match it. Not a handout. A loan. A hand up rather than a handout, though they both know she'll probably never be able to pay back the full amount. But that's not the point. The point is he's giving her the fiction she needs to accept help without sacrificing her sense of self. It's manipulation, kind of, but it's manipulation in service of kindness, and that's a complicated thing to process. Maria stares at the napkin, at the money, at this man who contains multitudes she never would have guessed at. "Why?" she asks again, but this time it's different. She's not asking why he'd help. She's asking why it matters to him that she keeps her dignity. Why he'd go through the trouble of restructuring his generosity to fit her needs instead of just forcing it on her the way powerful people usually do. "Because dignity was all my mother had," Castellano says simply. "And I watch people try to take even that from her. Every day. Small cruelties disguised as normal. I swore I'd never be like them. But somewhere along the way I forgot that just because you're not taking dignity doesn't mean you're preserving it. Sometimes you gotta actively protect it. For other people. Even when, especially when, they can't protect it for themselves." The revelation there is stunning if you really think about it. He's admitting that he lost his way. That the very thing he swore to uphold, respect, dignity, humanity, got buried under years of necessary hardness, strategic cruelty, calculated distance. He built an empire on fear, telling himself it was about never being small again, never being vulnerable again. But fear and respect aren't the same thing. Power and strength aren't the same thing. And somewhere in the chasm between who he was and who he became, he lost sight of the difference. Tony and the other associates are completely silent now. They're watching their boss deconstruct himself in real time, watching the mythology they've built around him crack and reveal something more human underneath. It's uncomfortable for them. They've invested in the myth. They've organized their understanding of the world around his invincibility, his cold rationality, his separation from messy human emotion. This version of Castellano, the one who remembers his mother with tears in his voice, who cares about a waitress's dignity, who admits to losing his way, this version is harder to follow. More complex. More real. Maria picks up the napkin, folds it carefully, puts it in her pocket along with the money. "I'll call him," she says. "And I'll pay you back. Every cent. It might take years, but I will." "I know you will," Castellano says, and he means it. Because she's the kind of person who will work herself to exhaustion to honor a debt, just like his mother was. That's the tragedy and the beauty of it all at once. She stands up, preparing to return to work, to finish her shift like this earth-shattering moment didn't just happen. But before she walks away, she does something that nobody expects, something that will echo through the rest of this story in ways none of them can predict yet. She reaches out and briefly, so briefly, touches Castellano's shoulder. Just a light touch, there and gone in a second. But it's everything. It's acknowledgement. It's connection. It's the recognition that they've both been carrying ghosts, both been shaped by mothers who taught them about dignity in different languages but with the same essential truth. And Castellano, this man who people fear, who commands rooms with silence, who spent decades building walls between himself and anything that might hurt him, he doesn't flinch, doesn't pull away. For just that moment he lets himself be touched, lets himself be human, lets himself feel the weight of connection instead of the isolation of power. Now I want to show you what happens after this moment, how it ripples outward and changes not just these two people but everyone who witnessed it. Right? Transformation is real. In the comments if you're feeling this shift, if you understand that change doesn't always look like what we expect it to look like. Maria walks back toward the kitchen, and the air in the restaurant feels different somehow. Lighter maybe, or heavier, it's hard to tell. Both at once. The kind of shift you feel in your chest but can't quite name. She disappears through the swinging door, and for several seconds nobody at Castellano's table speaks. They're all processing what just happened, trying to fit it into their understanding of how the world works, and finding that it doesn't quite fit. That's the thing about witnessing genuine transformation. It forces you to reconsider your own assumptions, your own choices, your own comfortable narratives about who you are and why you do what you do. Tony is the first to break the silence, his voice uncertain. "Boss, I didn't know about your mother. I'm sorry." Castellano doesn't look at him. He's staring at his hands, at the rings on his fingers. Symbols of achievement, of power, of distance traveled from that cramped Brooklyn apartment where his mother counted coins. "Nobody knew," he says quietly. "I never talk about her. Easier that way. Cleaner." "Why now?" another associate asks, genuinely confused. "Why tell her?" It's a fair question. In their world, information is currency. Vulnerability is weakness. You don't hand people pieces of yourself unless you're getting something in return. But Castellano just shakes his head slowly, like he's trying to figure out the answer himself. "Because she asked," he says finally. "And I was tired of lying. Even to myself." That admission hangs in the air. These men have followed Castellano for years, some of them for decades. They've seen him make impossible decisions, navigate treacherous situations, maintain iron control in circumstances that would break most people. But they've never seen this rawness, this willingness to acknowledge that maybe the armor they've all been wearing has a cost they stopped calculating a long time ago. The rest of the evening unfolds with a strange subdued energy. They finish their drinks, settle the bill. Castellano leaves a tip that's probably more than Maria makes in 2 months, and prepare to leave. But as they're getting up, Castellano pauses. "Tony," he says, and the younger man freezes, clearly expecting some kind of reprimand, some consequence for the disrespect he showed earlier. But Castellano just puts a hand on his shoulder. "You're gonna run things someday," he says. "Probably sooner than you think. When you do, remember tonight. Remember that respect isn't about making people fear you. It's about seeing them. Really seeing them. The people who serve you, who work for you, who exist in your orbit, they're not furniture. They're not extras in your story. They're people with mothers and problems and dignity that deserves protecting. You forget that, you become something less than human. And no amount of money or power makes up for that." Tony nods, clearly shaken. This isn't a lesson he expected to learn tonight. None of them did. As they file out of the restaurant, There's this sense that something fundamental has shifted in the hierarchy, not in terms of who's in charge, but in terms of what being in charge actually means. Maria watches them leave from the kitchen doorway. She's been crying, not obviously, but her eyes are red and her mascara is slightly smudged. The other staff members have been giving her space, sensing that something significant happened but not sure what. One of the other waitresses, an older woman named Rosa who's worked there for 15 years, comes up beside her. "You okay, Mija?" Rosa asks gently. Maria touches the pocket where the napkin and money are folded. "I don't know," she says honestly. I think I just saw something impossible." "What's that?" "A powerful man choosing to be human." Rosa considers this, then nods slowly. "Those are the most dangerous kind," she says, but she's smiling slightly. "The ones who remember they have hearts. They're dangerous because they make you hope. And hope, that's the thing that can change everything or break you completely." It's a profound observation, and it gets at the heart of what makes this moment so complicated. Because Maria's situation hasn't fundamentally changed. Her mother is still sick. The medical bills are still mounting. She still has to work double shifts just to keep her head above water. One act of kindness doesn't solve systemic problems. One loan doesn't erase the massive inequalities that create situations where people have to choose between dignity and survival. But something has changed. Some small crack has appeared in the seemingly solid wall between impossible and possible. And through that crack, a little light is coming through. Now I want to take this even deeper because here's where we get to the real truth about power and transformation and what it means to actually change. 3 weeks pass. Maria calls Castellano's attorney, and true to his word, arrangements are made. Her mother gets the treatment she needs. The payment plan is structured in a way that's manageable, that preserves Maria's sense of autonomy while actually providing the help she desperately needed. It's a small miracle wrapped in legal paperwork and wire transfers. But the bigger changes are subtler. Maria notices that she carries herself differently now. Not because she's indebted to Castellano, but because she was seen. Because someone looked at her and recognized her humanity when she felt invisible. That kind of recognition, it does something to you. It reminds you that you matter. That your story counts. That your dignity isn't dependent on your bank account or your position in some arbitrary hierarchy. And Castellano, he changes too, though in ways that are harder to quantify. He still runs his businesses. He still makes hard decisions. He still operates in worlds where power and fear and calculation are the currency of survival. But there's this new awareness now, this consciousness about how he moves through the world. He starts noticing the people who've always been invisible to him. The cleaning staff in his office building. The doormen at his clubs. The countless workers who make his life function smoothly but whom he's never really seen as fully human. He doesn't become a saint. That would be absurd and honestly kind of insulting to the complexity of real human change. He's still the same man with the same history and the same fundamental nature. But he's also different. More aware of the weight of his choices. More conscious of the fact that every interaction is an opportunity to either diminish someone or acknowledge their humanity. It's a small shift, but small shifts compound over time into something larger. Tony and the other associates, they change too. They start treating people differently. Not dramatically. Not in ways that would get them labeled as soft or weak in their world. But in small gestures. In moments of unexpected courtesy. In the conscious decision to see people instead of looking through them. The ripple effect of that one night extends outward in ways none of them could have predicted. 6 months later, Castellano returns to the same restaurant. Same table, same Thursday night, same ritual. But when Maria approaches, she's still working there, still grinding through shifts, still sending money home, but there's something lighter about her now. She doesn't approach as a servant approaching power. She approaches as one human acknowledging another. There's no debt hanging between them anymore. Just recognition. Just respect. "The usual?" she asks, and there's the hint of a smile on her face. "The usual," Castellano confirms. Then quieter, "How's your mother?" "Better," Maria says. "Much better. Thank you." He nods. Doesn't make a big deal out of it. Doesn't want her gratitude or praise. That's not what this was ever about. It was about reaching back through time to help the person his mother was. About honoring her memory by protecting someone else's dignity. About learning, finally, that real power isn't about how many people fear you. It's about how many people you lift up. How many lives you make lighter instead of heavier. How much humanity you preserve in yourself and others despite operating in systems designed to strip it away. The evening continues. Business gets discussed. Deals get made. The machinery of power keeps turning. But underneath it all, there's this quiet undercurrent of something different. Something more human. And maybe that's the real point. Maybe transformation isn't about completely reinventing yourself. Maybe it's about finding small moments to choose differently, to see instead of overlooking, to connect instead of isolating, to remember that everyone you meet is carrying something heavy, and kindness costs nothing but means everything. Maria finishes her shift that night and walks out into the cool evening air. She thinks about Castellano, about his mother, about her own mother recovering thousands of miles away. She thinks about dignity and survival and the strange ways that humans connect across impossible divides. And she realizes something profound. That moment in the restaurant when she sat down uninvited and demanded to be seen as equal despite all evidence suggesting she wasn't. That was her power. Not money. Not position. Just the absolute refusal to be made small. And his recognition of that refusal, his willingness to meet her on that ground, that was his redemption. Neither of them saved the other. But they saw each other. Really saw each other. And in a world that constantly tries to reduce people to their utility, their function, their place in the hierarchy, being truly seen is revolutionary. It changes you in ways that last long after the moment passes. Now here's what I really want you to understand, and this is crucial. This story isn't about one powerful man having a moment of kindness. It's about what happens when we choose to recognize each other's humanity especially when systems tell us we don't have to. It's about the courage it takes to be vulnerable, the strength it takes to see, the transformation that becomes possible when we stop hiding behind our armor and let ourselves be human with each other. If this story moved something in you, if you've ever been in Maria's position, or if you've ever had the chance to be Castellano and actually took it, drop "I see you" in the comments. Let's build something here. A reminder that we're all carrying something and we all deserve to be seen. Look, if you made it this far, you're not just watching videos to pass time. You're here because stories like this actually mean something to you. Because you understand that real power isn't about dominance, it's about humanity. And honestly, that says a lot about who you are. If this hit different for you, go ahead and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find content like this, stories that go deeper than surface level drama. And if you're not subscribed yet, consider it. We're building a space here for narratives that challenge what we think we know about strength, about dignity, about the quiet moments that change everything. Every week, there's something new that'll make you feel and think in ways you didn't expect. Drop a comment saying, "I stayed till the end," if you're still with me right now. I read every single one, and it matters more than you might think. It tells me this resonates, that we're on the same wavelength. And hey, there's another story waiting for you right here that takes this idea even further. Different situation, same depth. Click it and let's keep this conversation going. I'll meet you there.